So, hi everybody, this is Boysen Hodgson. I'm the Communications and Marketing Director for the ManKind Project USA, and I'm here with another off-the-cuff interview with a ManKind Project man. So, Matthew Alexander Sloane is the author of Tulie's Garden, which is an illustrated story about authenticity, vulnerability, and the dark side of being a man as revealed through his personal experience. Bill Kauth, who's one of the founders of the ManKind Project and one of the co-creators of the New Warrior Training Adventure, reviewed Matt's book recently and had this to say. Matt's deeply personal book with his words, his drawings, his inner journey also seems universal. We elders may recognize this journey as we have been there. Young men may track this path, discover their own trajectory, and take heart. With this gift of guidance, they may just find the soul poetry of worthy masculinity. What a beautiful recommendation for the book. So in 6 years of attending a weekly men's group, Matt transformed himself from being a self-described passive-aggressive pushover to speaking his truth, giving direct feedback, and listening with compassion. With this book project and other projects he's working on, he's helping men reconnect to their true selves so they can be better partners, friends, and colleagues, and be happier with who they already are. So welcome, Matt. I'm really psyched to get to talk to you, and your cats are making a ruckus right behind you, which is really fun.
Thanks,
So,
Boyson.
so first, tell me a little bit about why you created this book. Where did this come from?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on here. It's really fun to talk to you and be with you.
Welcome.
This book really came out of a tremendous amount of suffering for me. I find that most often in my life, when I'm experiencing something that's confusing or challenging to be with, it helps for me to write down what's going on. And I do that both in words, I do a lot of journaling, and I do a lot of drawing to help get clarity on what is all this stuff inside me. And so this book was, at the time, it was an attempt at reconciling a lot of the suffering I was feeling in the context of a marriage that I'm no longer in. Um, and I experienced so much blame that I was really taking on myself for not being the kind of partner I wanted to be. Um, I experienced myself as not really clear on how to be a man in a partnership. And I was really confused even career-wise. Like what am I here to do? What is this all about? I really felt dead in a lot of ways. I had very little access to my feelings. And I got myself on a path of starting to build a capacity to be with my feeling, with all my feelings, the whole range, so that I could feel more alive. So when this book, got going, it stopped um, a couple of years ago in 2007. It stopped, and I wasn't ready to move forward until last November, when it hit me again, and I started working on myself, and I said, I have to get this out. I did the drawing. It took me a long time with a move from San Francisco to Los Angeles in the middle. But what drove me really was sharing myself with other men, which actually partly came out of the New Warrior Training Weekend. That's like my mission, is about sharing my process with other men. That's how I bring peace to the world.
And how are you feeling about Tulie's Garden right now?
Hmm. I am, I sometimes I'll just read it because it's a fairly quick read given all the images. And when I read it, the last two times I read it was in the last week. And both times I teared up. And it tells me, whatever it was that came through me is really special and really important. So there's a real sweetness there that I'm feeling it right now. It feels really good to be connected to this work.
Hmm. Nice. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I first heard about Tulie's Garden, I think on Facebook,
Hmm.
probably through connections in the Mankind Project, and just because I know a lot of people on Facebook. And I was first struck with the title. So where does Tulie's Garden come from? What
Yeah.
does that mean?
It's everyone asks that question because it's so unusual. So it's Tulie. It looks like Julie with a T. And the name came first when I was developing the story that has shifted since, but originally it was about a little girl. And anyone who's into Jungian psychology might realize like, oh, well, yeah, we all have men have a little girl inside them, women have a little boy inside them. And so I think that might have been what was going on. So Tulie was the name I gave this little girl character, and I thought of this garden as her inner world that she was exploring. And I liked the name so much, even though the character became essentially me, a boy, a man, um, depending on which part of the story you're in. I needed to keep the name Tulie's Garden, so it really represents that inner world for me.
Thank you. And who do you see this book being for?
Hmm.
Like, who did you? I mean, it sounds like you wrote it for you, as really it was part of your personal journey and personal growth.
Yeah,
But for the rest of us, who is it for?
yeah. I think what I hope is that it's really for I see it as for men specifically, because here I am, a man sharing myself. Um, Essentially, it's, guys who are in the place of confusion or frustration about this. In our culture, we have this misalignment, I think, of who men are supposed to be and then who we each feel we really are. And it's unfortunate that there's this gap I feel between it feels like the limited version of manhood that is presented to most of us. It's really sad for me that I would so much rather, well, um I think it's for men who are curious about what's true for them and what's important to them and what it looks like to tell oneself and others the truth of what's going on inside you.
Which is a fairly risky endeavor.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, I'm glad you said that. I use the words authenticity and vulnerability a lot. And like if you look on my website, I have little definitions for what I see those words meaning. Um, Authenticity to me is really about the sharing of the true self. The true self behind the mask that, I've worn that mask a lot of my life. I wanted to be, perfect in a lot of ways. I wanted to be a cool guy, athletic, all these things. And the vulnerability is sharing the side of us that we don't think is okay to share. And it's going to look different for every guy. For me, sometimes an example would be like, I've told myself time and time again, I have a story that it's not okay for me to show my anger, which has made it harder for me to be assertive. So that's been part of my work is to get that out so that I can at least be assertive. Um, but yeah, I think every guy is going to have a different exploration in what's hidden inside of us. Because I mean, I know, as you do too, I'm sure that every guy, we're like these big bundles of energy. At least we were, and I know we still are until we hold ourselves back. And there's just so much limitless potential for all of us, to feel every feeling and to really be more of who we really are.
So I know that you don't have your background's not in therapy or psychology. So where are you coming from? Why
Yeah.
should why should men be listening to you in this book?
Yeah. There are a couple of ways I want to answer that. First is, it helps that I've had time working on myself. Like you said, 6 years in a men's group. There's a lot of hours put in of practicing with other men. Like this, I think we were really practicing authentic communication.
Mm.
And I know I shifted in that process, and I'm grateful for that environment. On top of that, all the hours I've put in, I'm like one of those self-help junkies who I'm one of, I think, of the small, yeah.
I
You're there.
identify.
Maybe you resonate with this too. Like the percentage of us who are actually the ones who go through the books that say, now do this exercise and actually do them.
Mm.
Um, I was always doing that kind of stuff, workshops, etc. But really, the most important part of this question, Boyson, is don't listen to me. And I say that to mean uh, it's what I'm practicing. Like I need to know that I can listen to anybody and I can resonate with what I resonate with, and I can totally disregard the rest. And I think that's what any guy needs to do. Like if I tell you one thing to do, decide what's true for you and what's not. So decide to listen to me or not.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those books that I absolutely adored was a little thin volume called "If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him,"
What does
which
that mean? I've never heard that one.
it's a Buddhist saying. Apparently, the Gautama said something to the effect of, "Yeah, don't believe me." It's
Yeah.
it's that. It's don't believe me. If you meet the Buddha, if you meet the one who claims to be enlightened and will
Mm.
teach you all things, kill him,
Yeah.
and be your Buddha. You
Yeah.
know, the guru is the kula in the yoga community. Is the
Oh, yeah.
community is the guru. So beautiful. I love that. So I've kind of heard quite a bit already about the messages that you're trying to get across from the book. And the other thing that I want to put across about the book is that it's just beautiful.
Mm.
I mean,
Thank you.
it's beautiful to look at. It's beautiful to go through, and as you said, it's kind of deeply personal. So I think it connects with this kind of mythopoetic idea. We
Mm.
use stories to transform. It's not the data doesn't transform us.
Yeah.
It's the stories and the lived experience that transform us. So I love it. And are there any other messages that you really want to put out there now as enticement for
Mm.
guys to go pick this book up?
One thing that's coming to me right now is it took me a long time to realize how important it was to be kind to myself. In any personal growth work that I've done, um, for a long time I was doing it more like a slave driver to myself, saying, I have to, is like for pushing myself, forcing myself forward. And I think some of that is healthy. And I think it also needs to be balanced with what has meant a lot to me is like really accepting me where I am now. I always want to grow. And it's like a paradox. I want to grow and I have to fully learn to love who I am today. And that kind of that conversation that I have with myself, a lot of that comes out in the book.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah.
So Tulie's Garden is categorized as it's kind of put in the spirituality and self-help bookshelf.
Hmm.
So what do you see as different about your book?
Yeah. Someone, I just read this recently, I wanted to share it. The term spirituality. Um, I wasn't actually clear on how that resonated as a category, but someone said something like, really, spirituality, all it means is it's about alleviating suffering. And if I think of all, the core of all religions, I think at their best, that's what they're doing. Um, anyway, that's kind of an aside, but the what's different about this book is, for something that's even categorized as a self-help book, there's so much of me talking about myself. And like you said, it's an important way to teach people or to share oneself is just by using the I statements.
Mm.
So all this book is me saying I. There's a forward and afterward where I might say you occasionally, but for the most part, it's just me saying this is true for me. Um, the other thing is that there are 48 illustrations, and it's not common in my experience that you have an illustrated book that's at least half illustrations and half words.
Mm.
And it doesn't in format it might look like a children's book because words on one side and images on the other. It's not. I don't think it's for children, but it's some amalgamation of. Someone might call it a graphic novel. Someone might call it a storybook. I don't know what to call it, but it's in that mythopoetic sense. There's a lot that's going to transfer through the images that I can't even say what's going to happen because there's so much of my unconscious that comes through those drawings.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, very well said. Um, so Tulie's Garden has been a work in process for you for a while now,
Hmm.
and it's just out.
Yeah.
So what do you want people to do now for you?
Well, I think it's like I'm wanting a conversation. I want to be holding a conversation space. And the least I hope that happens is that people start talking about what it means for them to consider these terms of authenticity and vulnerability. Um, I hope that it's a conversation they have not just with themselves, with other people. Um, and the book is available now online. So this is the first day I can actually say that. It's available on tuliesgarden.com. I'll hold this up for the spelling, and this is what the cover looks like.
I see. Yes.
That's me. That's definitely a part of me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, tuliesgarden.com. You can order the book there. There's also like all these some videos I have on there. There are three, I think, that each kind of show a part of me and a part of this conversation.
One of the videos was the first connection that I think
Yeah.
I made to you was through a video that you put on Facebook for your Kickstarter when you
Yeah.
were doing Kickstarter. Yeah, and beautiful. The video is beautiful, and that's where I got the sense of the illustrations in the book.
Mm.
So tuliesgarden.com is where you can go and get the book. So I can't wait to have an actual signed copy of the book.
Yes.
I'm very excited about that, and I thank you for taking the time this afternoon to talk about the book.
Yeah. Thank you, Boyson. This has been fun.
Cool. So this has been an off-the-cuff interview for the ManKind Project Journal.org, and I am Boyson Hodgson. See you next time.